Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen, from wherever you're joining us from this world, around the world. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the 9th post 2020 webinar and the first one for 2020, which promises to be a very busy and exciting year, building up towards COP15 in China later this year. We have a very exciting lineup of speakers joining us today. So today, the purpose of the webinar is just to touch base, look at some of the highlights from last year, but also look at what the local and subnational government networks around the world are planning for 2020. Like I said, towards COP15 in China later this year. Next slide, please, Julia.
It's on your screen.
Seems like we're having a trouble issue with moving of the slide.
We're also having some trouble hearing you. You're cutting off sometimes, unfortunately.
Julia, do you mind just giving an indication when that does happen, so I can just repeat myself so people doesn't miss out on information?
Yes.
Here we go. As I was saying, interesting panel of speakers. So we have Kobe from ICLEI Africa, who's our regional director, and also the global director for ICLEI's Cities Biodiversity Center. Then we have Renata from Region 4, who's not joining us in the flesh today, but we have a pre-recording of her presentation. So we'll play that a little later in the webinar. Then we have Teru from Goals, who's joining us and presenting a little bit later, as well as Robbie from Committee of the Regions, European Commission, who's been joining us for the afternoon session, but his colleague Roberto Rinaldi will be representing him a little bit later. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. It seems that the slides are moving a bit slower than usual. We are looking at that into that technical issue and hope to have it resolved soon. So just briefly, again, welcome everyone. It's going to be hopefully a very fruitful and insightful discussions over this hour webinar. So as I mentioned, we'll kick off the session with a presentation from Kobe Brandt, who's going to be looking to give us some updates on post-2020 roadmap and looking at the plans for 2020 leading up to COP. Then we're going to switch around the agenda just because of people's time. So second place, we're going to have Roberto representing goals, and he's going to be presenting on Committee of Regions, my apologies, and he's going to be presenting on Robbie's behalf. And then we're going to have the pre-recording of Renata's presentation representing Regions 4. And lastly, we will then listen to Tero Kisuno from Goals. And then lastly, we'll have a question and discussion session towards the end of the webinar, where you are welcome to post your questions using the questions or chat tab on the pane. Or you're welcome to raise your hand if you want to ask a verbal question, time permitting. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Kobe Brandt. Kobe, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ryan, and welcome everybody to the first of the webinars for 2020. We know that there are some people that have been with us since last year when we started these webinars. and also some new people joining us this year. You are very welcome. And I want to remind you that these presentations are available online afterwards as well on our video on our YouTube channel, but you can also find them on the roadmap page. We will give you the links at the end of the meeting. So yes, this is indeed a very exciting year ahead of us, and we've come a long way. And I think I just want to touch up a little bit with where we are and where we're going this year. So that's going to be my short introduction today. And the first point I want to make is that you'll see at the top right-hand corner of the slide deck, you'll see that we are also branding it now as not just ICLEI giving these presentations, but we've also added the Global Task Force. Because since we gave our last presentation at the end of last year, you may or may not know yet that ICLEI has now formally been appointed as the focal point for the Global Task Force for Cities and Regions on to act as focal point for biodiversity and nature. So it's not just us as organizations that are gathering here today presenting, but it's also the whole of the Global Task Force that will be engaging in our advocacy roadmap and activities during the course of the year. So the next slide actually gives you just an oversight in terms of who are the members of the Global Task Force. The Global Task Force full name is of Local and Regional Governments, and you will see that Regions 4 is there alongside with us, but notably also UCLG, FMDV, and C40, and a whole range of other colleagues as well. So this is a fantastic step in a positive direction for us, because it certainly strengthens our voice out there and collectively strengthen our advocacy efforts. You will also know that last year we introduced already our ICLEI's Global Ambassador for Local Action for Biodiversity, the Mayor Valerie Brandt from the city of Montreal. And you know, Montreal is also, for instance, a C40 city and very active in the UCLG structures. So for Montreal, this is also very good news that they are representing ICLEI, but they're representing also the Global Task Force to a certain extent, when they speak as Global Ambassador for local and regional governments. Of course, every voice counts, and of course, it's very important to make sure that there's strong voices coming from individual cities and regional governments. So our governors and our mayors will feature much more prominently and engage much more prominently during the course of this year. And therefore, we are so delighted to have the Committee of Regions with us today, who represents really a very wide group of cities and regions in Europe, and closely aligned with voting rights actually in the European Union. So very welcome, Ronaldo, to you and to our friend Robbie Biver later this afternoon. In the next slide, which will come up on your screen in a minute, you will see that we've just done a timeline on the roadmap to COP15 from our perspective, from the perspective of our constituency as local and subnational governments. So in 2019, in 2019, feels like so long ago, there was already a very key event, which is a formal technical preparatory meeting of the CBD. It's called the SUBSTA meetings, and SUBSTA 23 took place in Montreal at the end of November. We were present there alongside with some of our partners presenting here today, and some mayors and governors. And there we engaged also with parties, something that we organized with the CBD Secretariat. And
We are losing you, Kobe. We cannot hear you anymore. We still cannot hear you. We're having some technical problems with the Wi-Fi of the organization who was presenting. We will be back as soon as we solve this problem. Thank you for your patience. Hi, Ryan. Are you back?
Hi, Julia. We're back.
Okay.
Yes. Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Right. I'm very sorry about this interruption. In South Africa at the moment, we face power shortages and outages, and when the power comes back in, the generators need to be switched off and the power comes back on, and that's just what happened. So for a few minutes in between, we lose power. So let me speed up by saying in 2019, there were already two very prominent meetings, the Substar meeting in Montreal in November, and then also the COP25, the climate COP in December. Both of those were milestone events where our community made significant inputs into the formal proceedings of these events. For instance, at the SAPSA meeting in Montreal, we co-hosted with the City of Montreal and the CBD Secretariat a meeting with the parties, the negotiators themselves from the parties, to share ambitions on both sides in terms of what we want to see as part of a decision coming out of COP15 for the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. And it is clear from our constituency that there is broad consensus that we'd like to see a new plan of action. You will know that the plan of action on local authorities, subnational governments and others was born basically and adopted in Nagoya at the COP10, and the plan of action ran for 10 years from 2011 to 2020, so it is coming to an end of this year, but it provided a very useful CBD COP endorsed framework for parties of the convention, as well as the actors, the subnational and local government actors and organizations supporting them like ourselves, to take action collectively and to drive innovative processes. So it is important for us that a dedicated decision for cities and regions replaces the plan of action or becomes a new form, a new edition, basically, of the plan of action. We need to build on the plan of action because it certainly spurred and initiated and supported a whole lot of initiatives and actions by all the parties and all other stakeholders. We've seen many cities, many regions doing phenomenal work, and the institutional grounding for all of that work has been the plan of action. So we want to once again thank Goals for the instrumental role from the start, and specifically the IG Prefecture and Nagoya, who were instrumental in the formulation of the plan of action at that time. And we are delighted to have Goals with us on this call. So in 2020, I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see these are just the highlighted events. There are many other actions taking place, and some of our colleagues are, including Renata and Ingrid Kutsia, who's here with us, and some of you know her, are gathering in Sao Paulo these very days now, in a first major CBD endorsed workshop on subnational governments. It's focusing more on regional government engagement, and Sao Paulo State is the host alongside with ICLEI and others. We will share the outcomes of that meeting with you, but initial reports are that the ambition is high, the support from Brazil is strong, and there's a lot of activity in South America around that event, which not only brings South American subnationals together, but it also has a very strong global element to the meeting. Next week we'll be at the World Urban Forum. The week thereafter, or 2 weeks thereafter, we'll be at the Open-Ended Working Group, which is now moved from China. Unfortunately, it had to move from China to Rome, but we will be there actively involved in the meetings in Rome. And for those of you who still are making up your minds, please do join us. We will have a dedicated space in the negotiation halls where local and subnational governments and their representatives will be sitting, and where we can coordinate, and we will coordinate our inputs from the floor into the negotiations over that week. I'm not going to go into all the details of the rest. You can find all of this on our roadmap website. So in a next slide, you will just be able to see. You can analyze this slide at a later date, but we've tried to put everything in a nutshell for you here. The overall Vision 2050, living in harmony with nature, is entrenched, and it's that Vision 2050 which is forming the cornerstone for the negotiations that will take place up to Kunming, and for developing a new global biodiversity framework, which will be endorsed and adopted, we all hope, and all indications are that it will be adopted in Kunming in China at COP15. So Vision 2050 is the overarching vision that will inform and shape the framework. And from what we've seen, there has been a first draft presented in January by the co-chairs of the COP to the broader, all parties and the broader constituencies. ICLEI has submitted inputs into from ICLEI's side into that statement, and in that regard, we have worked with we appreciate it and worked with inputs from Goals, Committee of Regions, Regions 4, the CBD Secretariat, and others. Our general feeling is that the first draft is looking good, but that there is not enough reference and not strong enough reference to local and subnational governments. And that point was made clear with tangible examples of where these inputs can be made. And there were also submissions by others, including Regions 4, in support of the ICLEI submission. So it's all well aligned. I think our constituency is working very well together, and we're looking forward to building and strengthening this constituency. So please, if you go to the next slide, you will see that there is a whole range of webinars coming up in the weeks and months ahead, leading to Kunming. And we invite you to please distribute these days, sign up for these webinars, and bring cities and regions and anybody who you feel, parties as well, who you feel can make inputs and will benefit from those webinars to the discussion. You're also welcome to contact us at any time. In a moment, you will see that the dates of the webinars are coming up on your screen. We have, as I said, a few internet problems, so it's taking a bit slower, but there we go. Those are the dates. But again, you can find it all on the roadmap website, which we will share with you at the end of the presentation. So with this, I'm going to actually hand over to our colleagues from Committee of Regions, Roberta Rinaldi is going to talk before Renata is going to give her presentation. So Renata Gomez from Regions 4 will follow Roberto's input. So Roberta, over to you, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Kobe. I hope you can hear me right. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Roberto Rinaldi. I am a policy officer at the European Committee of the Regions. I'm speaking on behalf of Robbie Beaver, who will intervene in the second session, but he couldn't make it this morning. So I will just share with you a few words. I will just quickly tell you a little bit more about the European Committee of the Regions and also about the work that this Committee of the Regions is doing together with the European Commission towards the next European Union biodiversity strategy, and then a few words also just to tell you a little bit more about the contribution of the Committee of the Regions to the preparatory process for the post-2020 policy framework. And just so I hope yes, fantastic, it works. So the European Committee of the Regions is the European Union Assembly of Regional and Local Representatives. It is been established in 1994. And its mission has been to represent and to promote the interests of the local and regional authorities in relation to the European decision-making process. This is because, as you can see in the slide, 70% of all European Union legislation is actually implemented by local and regional authorities. So it is very important for for the European Union policy making to have the voice of cities and regions heard when developing the European policies. Here the Committee of the Regions has therefore helped to ensure an even closer union of the European nations and territories, with the decisions being taken at the closest possible level to all citizens. And the members of the Committee of the Regions, they meet in plenary sessions in Brussels, and what they do is that they discuss and adopt what we call opinions with reports and resolutions. Especially the opinions, these are all legislative documents that we then provide to the European Union institutions, and the European Union institutions have to consider what it's been said on the opinion by the European Committee of the Regions. And so the members, here you can see an overview of the current Committee of the Regions organization. We will change also due to the Brexit to a new structure in next week. And so you will find an updated version of this figure in the website of the Committee of the Regions. And what we do is that we work on 6 different commissions. And specifically, as I was saying before, I work at the Commission for Environment, Climate Change and Energy. This is where we deal with the biodiversity. And Robbie Beaver is a member of the Commission, ENVE, and he is also the rapporteur of the opinion on biodiversity. And he has been already the rapporteur of the opinion that the Committee of the Regions prepared in 2018 for the biodiversity towards the COP14 in Egypt. And this year we will not only comment on the COP15, but we will also have comments on the European Union's biodiversity strategy to 2030. And since we are running a little bit late, I will not go into details, but just I'm showing to you the 7 main points that the opinion of the Committee of the Regions is developing. I'm just leave it there for you to digest, and anyway there will be the slides available, and I'm leaving this to you because if you have any comments or any specific content that you wish to provide in relation to any of these points, please do not hesitate to come back to us, and the rapporteur and his expert will then take into consideration your input. And so once we will have the opinion adopted, we will not only disseminate it within the European Union institutions, but we will also disseminate them internationally. And specifically here you can see the events where the Robbie Beaver and the other representatives of the Committee of the Regions will be. And of course, this is just the participation of the events, but we are also contributing to the work of the Advisory Committee for Subnational Governments to the United Nations CBD. And what we are therefore doing is not only to comment on the European policies, but also on the relevance of the subnational governments, so of the local and regional authorities within the next strategy at the global level. So I was quicker than expected, but I'm sorry, unfortunately I have to leave. If you have any question, please, or any contribution, please do not hesitate to contact me or Robbie Beaver at the address that you see on the screen. Unfortunately, I now have to leave, but again, if you have any questions, you can send them to me or Robbie Beaver to this email address, or participate to this afternoon session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roberto. We really appreciate your time. We know you have to leave quite soon, but yeah, thank you very much for your inputs. And we look forward to hearing from Robbie this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, just to reiterate that the presentations, together with the recording of this webinar, will be made available to everyone. And then the last session of this webinar will have time for discussions and questions. So yeah, we're gonna get straight into our next presentation, which is a recording from Ms. Renata Gomez. If you could play the video of Renata, please. Julia seems to be on mute. There's no sound coming through. Still no sound.
Okay, it looks like, do you want to try with your screen? Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, we have the same problem. I think you have to change the output sound because I cannot hear. Ryan, unfortunately, we cannot hear Renata's presentation.
Julia?
Yes, can you hear me?
Able to play it from your side?
No, now it's your screen, but I cannot hear the sound as well.
Do you think it won't be better if you play it from your side?
No, because I have to change. It's not possible with my computer. You have to change the output sound.
And how does one do that?
Can you try to play with your?
With my?
Gomez with Regions 4 organization
that represents national governments worldwide. We are also together with the government.
We can hear, but it's really bad quality.
And the university, which is an official body that represents the national governments at the heart of the Convention on Biodiversity. Tonight I will be talking about the actions the advisory committee is taking towards the post-2020 process, and in particular on the road to.
Robert, tell them we've got a sound problem. Moving on to the next item.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we seem to be having issues with the sound of the video. So I think just in the interest of time, we're going to move on to the next presentation, which is Teru. We will make the video available, obviously, with the presentations to everyone. We humbly apologize for this. So Teru, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Please wait for preparing the presentation. Yes, can you see?
Not yet.
Not yet. Sorry.
Are you sharing your screen?
Yes, I have.
Did you receive the notification?
No, not yet.
Okay, then let's try again.
Didn't be good. How about you?
Yes, now we can.
Good, good. Okay, thank you very much for giving me such an opportunity to presentate the initiative of IT and goals for 2020. Thank you very much. Okay. Before moving to the plan of goals, I'd like to show some of our recent achievement in IT for your break, maybe. Sorry. Oh, yes. IT biodiversity strategy was adopted after COP10, which adopted the IT biodiversity target with the 2050 vision, living in harmony with nature, and 2020 mission as the actions to halt the biodiversity loss. And in the IT Biodiversity Strategy 2020, our strategy, we advocate the IG method, which is formed by ecosystem network councils and also IG mitigation systems. And we have developed some tools to support this IG method. And in ecosystem network councils, we have a lot of social entities like universities and the business sectors, local government, and also NPOs. The total number of the entity is about 250. And as 2020 is a special year for us, as the end of the our strategy and also biodiversity targets. This year we're making effort to wrap up the achievement and also raise public awareness. So the first attempt was held in 11th and 12th January at IG Nagoya Biodiversity Expo. It was a kickoff event of the nationwide UNDP wrapping up relay So as you know, we hosted the Asian Pacific consultation, regional consultation, just a year ago. And it was the kickoff of the regional consultation workshop just after COP14. So Aichi, Nagoya is always the place of beginning. And this event was co-organized with the Ministry of Japan, Ministry of Environment, Japan, the Nagoya City, and also Japan Committee for UNDP. And our Governor Omura gave his comment at the beginning of the event. And this was a very complex event. And we held previous campaign, the photo contest in Instagram. We have more than 1,000 works from Instagram and emails, and these photos are the best photos chosen by the photographers. All pictures showed the beautiful scene of Aichi. So we'd like to utilize these pictures later afterward. And in plenary symposium, we had a keynote speech from Sakana-kun. Sakana-kun is a very popular scientist and who can showcase the wonder of nature very, very nicely and very popular for, especially for children. And afterward, we had panel discussion by people working for biodiversity in our prefecture and also young adults in our prefectures. And we had also scientific or thematic sessions. 4 sessions we had. Session 1 is the scientific evidence. And this, you can see one example of a report by a researcher about the freshwater turtles. And in this map of peninsula, Chita Peninsula, the researcher investigate the proportion of the turtles, and red sign is the invasive alien species, and yellow and green is the endemic turtles. And we can see that during these 15 years, the proportion of the turtles dramatically changed, especially in the south part, the most remote part from the city of Nagoya. So this such result show us we should do after world. So invasive species is getting more problem in our prefecture. Also, in the session 3, which was on the grace of biodiversity. This photo is from an organic farmer who is standing in the center of the group. He have been working on organic agriculture, and when he increased the land, he asked a handicapped people to work with him. So then he could increase his farmland, but also the handicapped people get healed themselves. It was a very amazing effect of the nature, I think. So this also show us the people we should collaborate with in the future, I think. And we had more booth exhibition or even the food corner which provided fried alien fish or also honey produced by sorry, in an urban high school. The high school student even sold the ice cream themselves, right? And this event have a long tail mechanism with itself. We have produced a specific logo for 2020 for common use in IG. You can see a single leaf logo mark behind the scene of COP10. And now, 10 years after COP10, so we put 9 more leaves and also fruits, and this means the achievement for 10 years. Also, we are going to collect best practices and good practices in IG, and we are planning to bring it to COP15 in the booklet. All right, and also we are now working on new strategy for us. As the current strategy is get to the end this year, we need new strategy. So about the new strategy, we consider a lot about the new post-2020 global biodiversity framework, and also, of course, the IPBES report or GBO5 also, and also we are considering the SDGs like grace of biodiversity. And also, of course, we need to stand on the achievements so far and also science and evidence-based. And to apply the principle on the ground for us, we are thinking of upgrading the IG method for mainstreaming, and also define the value of nature with scientific method and communication with people. The picture on the right hand is a scene of workshop with the residents to find the treasure of nature in their areas. Also, next slide. Yes, this is a map of IG, full of the important point in the nature. And next, this is a map of protected areas. So we can find some areas without protection, and that will show us. So we need to make some mechanism, create some mechanism to protect a good site or good ecosystem, but not protected right now. All right. So we also need to enhance partnership and breakthrough sectionalisms, encourage municipalities, also enhance SEPA and capacity building, also develop compensational mitigation method, and also take advantage of the progress of science and technology. So that so we have just began to work with new strategy, but I expect we can bring the outline of our new strategy to COP15. All right, let's go to the goals plan for 2020. Now, goals is trying to compile a report on subnational experience on vertical integration in line with the guideline which ICLEI and the SCBD published in 2017, and you can see the guidelines at the URL in the bottom, and we are planning to post it to SBI3, which we recognize a very, very important conference toward COP15. Our report will showcase concrete initiatives of each member along the 13 guidelines which the ICLEI's book showed to us. And also, we are planning to have a side event of goals on this report along SBI3 in next May. And the second point is the goals is operational partner of the advisory committee of subnational government. So we will support the advisory committee and also collaborate with ICLEI or other subnational entities like ECHO to help a new plan for local and subnational government should be adopted in COP15. And to the open-ended working group 2 in this February in Rome, IG is attending too, and expecting to have opportunity to participate to discuss on new global biodiversity framework. And also we are expecting to have meeting with other relevant organizations such as ICLEI, regions, and ECHO. And we expect this is a very fruitful and strategically important meetings for us. And fourth point, the very unfortunately, we cannot attend to the Scotland consultation on April because the April is the just the beginning day of the fiscal year in Japan, so everything could change. So we cannot be there, but we recognize this consultation is so important for all of us that we'd like to search for a possible method to contribute to the conference as goals somehow. And along COP15 in October in China, Governor Omura is planning to attend as far as he can save the date. And also, IG is planning to have a side event and exhibition of goals, if possible. and also we are thinking to bring some young people who are active on the ground. So I hope we can show the achievement and importance of subnational government in COP15 also. And I forgot to show in this slide, but I'd like to share a very happy news for goals that the Jiangsu province of China has just entered to goals. So we have a friend in China within goals right now. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tero. It was very insightful. Yeah, and we're looking forward to see goals, initiatives, and plans pan out for 2020 towards COP15. So thank you very much for that. I'm just going to hand over to Kobe again, who just wants to give you a special word of thanks.
Yes, thank you, Tero, very much for that comprehensive overview and also demonstrating the remarkable commitment from ICLEI. We have worked with many host municipalities and cities and prefectures and provinces and so on, previous hosts of the COPs who have worked with us on the city and region summits that always go alongside these COPs. But absolutely, in terms of dedication, 10 years down the line, after the COP in Nagoya, which I so fondly remember, it is absolutely remarkable what your leadership is showing in terms of dedication and commitment in taking this agenda forward. Specifically, Governor Omura has been a fantastic ally to this consortium, and I think many other governors and mayors around the world are taking very, very high levels of inspiration from him. So please, to Governor Omura, please send him my personal thank you and congratulations. We absolutely love the new logo. It's remarkable. It is so smart to build it with these leaves. And that, I think, is just the spirit of what we are all sharing at the moment in this very important year. We have to take hands. We have to do things together. We have to grow those seeds that were sown 10 and many years back. And what a beautiful symbolic way in which you are demonstrating that. So really it touches my heart and my soul, and it inspires us here back at ICLEI to strive for better and further things. So with that, I just want to remind everybody that Cities with Nature is going to be the platform for cities around the world to submit and report and share their ambitions and learn from each other in terms of nature actions. And side by side to it is going to be its sister platform called Regions for Nature. And we hope and we trust that the entire Goals family will come on board Regions with Nature as soon as we launch it later this year. And we know that we can count on Teru, you, and the entire Goals family to help shape the meeting. It is a pity that we will not see you in Scotland, but we understand that the governor needs to prioritize also his time, and we will certainly do our best between Regions 4 and ICLEI and all your friends to represent your interest there, and we'll work with you in the preparations ahead of Scotland and ahead of the other meetings where we will see you later in the year. So thank you very much for your personal dedication, for a wonderful presentation, and I think with this we are able to also end this this specific webinar. This afternoon there will be another webinar where Teru's presentation will be presented because it's been recorded now. So Teru, your word will go out to the attendees of this afternoon's presentation as well. And thank you very much to everyone that participated from our side. It's an excellent start to the year. and we're looking forward to future webinars. Thank you also to the World Secretariat for helping to support us on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Kobe, for too much words for us. All right, let's keep collaborate toward remarkable goals for us at COP15. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teru. And thank you everyone again for joining us. Have a lovely day further. Thank you and goodbye.